So, I haven't uploaded in a while. Let's talk about Ben Shapiro's recent video. So, a clip from Ben Shapiro's show, The Daily Wire, fairly recently went viral on the internet of Ben Shapiro basically saying that empathy is bad for politics. Now, this shit triggered a hell of a lot of people on the more progressive side of things. Now, there's a lot of different people that have made response videos to this. Kyle Klinsky made a response video to this. Vosh made a freaking response video to this. But I think that there's one particular bread tuber that made a response video to this that kind of encapsulates all of the general progressive feelings when it comes to this, and that's Thought Slime. Thought Slime, who is a left-wing YouTuber, recently released a video critiquing Ben Shapiro's views on empathy, along with other things that a different guy by the name of Ian Miles Chong said on Twitter. Now, I'm not going to talk about Ian Miles Chong and what he said on Twitter. That's not relevant to the point that I'm trying to make. What I am interested in is Ben Shapiro's views regarding empathy. See, Ben Shapiro basically argued that empathy is bad for politics because it clouds the reasoning parts of the brain. It comes into conflict with the rational part of your brain that should be making the decisions, and as a result, reason rather than empathy should be in the driver's seat. And Thought Slime, of course, got triggered over this. So let's watch.
Ben is marginally less pathetic than Ian, so he makes a more coherent case for this position with less overt displays of his own insecurities. Now personally, I'd prefer if we didn't have leaders making all of our choices for us, but failing that, I'd at least like my leaders to have my best interests in mind. I would like for that to be the expectation, you know? Like, it seems really weird and self-evidently undesirable that these guys are arguing that kindness and regard for others is a bad quality for people who are entrusted with the safety of others. And I get the faulty logic of it. Divesting oneself of emotional attachment allows you to step back and view the big picture. Caring too much about people's immediate well-being or wanting to prevent harm coming to them in the short term could blind you to longer-term harm. But here's where that logic goes off the rails a little bit for me. If you didn't care about the well-being of others, why would you be incentivized to do what's best for them at all? If they were actually uninterested in the well-being of others, they'd use any leadership position to enrich themselves. Everyone else be damned. They'd be really corrupt. They would just... Oh, okay, yeah.
Ben Shapiro at no point did Ben Shapiro make the argument that leaders should not have the best interests of their citizens in mind. Remember, and this is a very key distinction that we have to make, Ben Shapiro is not saying that leaders should have zero empathy whatsoever and should be completely psychopathic. He's saying that reason rather than empathy should be in the driver's seat and empathy should be in the back seat. There's a difference. The position, again, this is very important because the position that empathy should play zero role in politics whatsoever is very different from the position that empathy should play a limited role in politics, which is what Ben Shapiro is arguing.
Ben at least makes the distinction between empathy, which is irrational and bad, and sympathy, which is neutral and could, in theory, be good. I think he gets them backwards because the distinction he makes no sense to me.
The reason that empathy is bad for politics is because it leads you to empathize with people that you are more likely to like, as opposed to people you don't like. Okay, so this doesn't mean that feeling sympathy for people is a bad thing. It means that if empathy is what drives your policymaking, you're probably not acting in a rational fashion.
We can only feel empathy for people we like? I don't know, man. I feel I can tell people's emotions pretty easily. even if they're very much not someone I would like?
Oftentimes, people both on the right and the left have empathy only for people that they like. And this is not like a right-wing thing, as some people like to claim. Your side, Thought Slime, does this all the time. Why do you have empathy for so-called undocumented immigrants, but you don't have empathy for the workers that get their jobs taken by those illegal immigrants? Why do you have empathy for poor people who live in inner cities and who are black, but you have zero empathy for poor people who live in rural Tennessee who voted for Trump? You know, Hillary Clinton called those people deplorables. So no, having empathy for people that, only for people that you like, is a thing people do a lot of the time when they have empathy on both the right and the left.
You don't want caring and therefore weak, soft men to lead. You want hard men. I want them to be hard. So hard.
Thought Slime, you have absolutely no idea how cringy that joke is. Please don't do that ever again.
If your decision is based on numbers, on the cold, hard facts, that's you doing the job as an elected official. You're not letting the soft, namby-pamby feelings of others influence your choices, but rather logic, reason, etc., which makes sense. You wouldn't want someone making instincts based on their gut or ignoring experts. So okay, let's say someone took a cold hard look at the facts and realized there was a problem in America with police brutality against people of color. Let's say we were in the middle of the biggest American mass uprising of the century largely because of that fact.
Actually, black people are only 1% likely to get shot by the police by mistake, and white people are 14% likely to get shot by the police by mistake. So don't tell me there's a problem with police brutality. There isn't.
Let's say that you had the power to take out an ad in a baseball field to bring people's attention to the problem without naming it or actually doing anything about it because you're a big evil company that doesn't actually give a shit but want to give the appearance of giving a shit. But even though the numbers are on your side and most people would commend you for doing it, a few extremely fragile ding-dongs would be offended. What is the logical decision here? Do you listen to the numbers or do you listen to Ben Shapiro's feelings? It's not helpful to be empathetic with communities being brutally oppressed for generations, but you should empathize with a guy who just wants to watch a ball game. What's next? They're going to sing the national anthem before every game? They're going to invite the president onto the mound and have him throw the first pitch?
No, Thought Slime. African Americans have not been oppressed since at least 1964.
Both of these bizarre takes are trying to sell you on the same idea. You shouldn't feel bad for the people that must be brutalized. A wave of brutality must come to suppress the barbarians at the gate, and it'll be tough, but a strong leader needs to arise to handle problems like this. A leader who is empathetic is just going to give in to the mob. We need a leader who doesn't empathize. Only he and his hardness can protect us. Protect us, Hard Daddy! Protect us from the scary Antifas and black people.
You, my dear friend named Thought Slime, are reading way too much into what Ben Shapiro said. Ben Shapiro at no point suggested a brutal crackdown on the protesters, or even Antifa.
Thing is, there's only so strong a single person can be. A single man is limited by their own muscles, their own body. But if we cared about one another, if we looked out for one another, kept each other safe and healthy, there's no upper limit on the strength that could be established. People working together will always be stronger than people working alone, except in the instance of Ian and Ben as a tag team versus me in the ring, where I would win handily. A community of love, solidarity, and mutual aid produces stronger people than a community of backstabbing, sabotaging competition. You know what the most dangerous animals are? Mothers. the caretakers of the young. They fight harder and more fiercely than any other animal. Hell, you could trap a human baby under a burning car and its mother will develop literal superpowers to rescue it. I mean, don't do that. I'm not saying you, when I say you could do that, I don't mean go do it. I'm using it as it's a thing that taking care of others doesn't make you weak. It makes them strong. And if everyone takes care of everyone else, it means someone else is taking care of you, making you strong.
Okay, let's assume for the sake of argument, since Thought Slime gave a progressive example, I'll give a reactionary example. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that there is a homeless drug addict on the street who simply doesn't want to work and made a bunch of very poor decisions and is homeless for that reason. What should the government do? Should the government, A, provide said person with a one-room apartment and Yang bucks? Or should the government either let the person suffer the consequences of their own stupidity, or, ideally, implement some sort of program that helps the poor homeless man become a productive member of society on his own and not need anybody's help, rather than just continuously help the person? If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. But when you're empathetic, it clouds the reasoning parts of your brain and you end up giving people fishes instead of teaching people how to fish. That's the thing Ben Shapiro is getting at. Okay, so you're probably wondering why the heck I decided to defend Ben Shapiro from the attacks from the left that surfaced after Ben Shapiro made those comments relating to empathy in politics. Well, and you're also probably wondering, Wolf, when the heck are those freaking race realist videos that you promised going to come out? Patience, that's coming, but to be honest with you, I just thought this would be interesting. You know, I don't really like Ben Shapiro, to be honest with you. He doesn't really agree with me that much politically. Don't get me wrong, I obviously agree with Ben Shapiro a lot more than I agree with the left, but I don't really like Ben Shapiro, especially with like the neocon crap. With that being said, oh, and I also disagree with Ben Shapiro's views on civic nationalism versus ethno-nationalism. Ethno-nationalism is better. But with that being said, as much as I don't like a lot of the positions Ben Shapiro takes, Ben Shapiro is absolutely 100% correct when it comes to empathy. And I just thought it would be interesting for me to talk about this topic. And if you're wondering where the freaking race realist videos that I promised in my academic consensus video, I promised I would do a response video to a guy that commented under my Hunter Avallone is wrong about race video. If you're wondering where that is, that's coming. Don't worry. It's just that I've been busy with a bunch of other crap, and I don't always have time to do research. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, agreed with anything that I said, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. This is Wolf signing out.